Hey everyone, welcome back to the arena. I'm MD, joined here by Covey, and once again a really special guest that we can't wait to introduce and have a great conversation with. Love and appreciation to those that continue to follow.
What's up, everybody? Like MD said, got another fun guest here. I was just telling MD before we hopped on that I'm excited about this one, and I'm excited about all of our guests. But I think this is gonna be a fun one. This is John Keegan. John's a world-renowned dating coach, dating expert. He runs the Awakened Lifestyle, where he uses expertise in dating, attraction, social dynamics to help both men and women develop dating and social skills. He holds workshops in LA to London to Rio de Janeiro to Prague. He's in Medellin, Colombia right now, separately. But John is a traveler. I think I've gathered from my couple minutes of meeting him. And his work has been featured in a bunch of places, including New York Times, Fox and Friends, Humans in New York, Men's Health. So, with that, John, why don't you just, first of all, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and wisdom. And secondly, who is John Keegan?
Yeah, hey guys, great to meet you, and thanks for having me here. I was really excited when you guys reached out. John Keegan is, a little bit of a background on me is I originally moved to New York after getting a degree in psych, and I wanted to be an actor. So I went there to act, and I did a lot of plays and theater, and a lot of studying, and some movies and some commercials. And at one point, it just wasn't cutting it. Like it was fun, but it wasn't. I wasn't breaking through to anything. And I wasn't enjoying working for other people, so I would get a sales job here and there, and I didn't enjoy it. So I had to come up with something on my own, and at that time in my life, a little over 15 years ago, I was really deep steeped into self-actualization practices and really leveling up my life. Like I had a keen awareness that I could be more, and I wasn't living my best life. I wasn't, and I went on a real path of how could I get there. And it started with my diet, changing my diet, playing with my diet, and removing the main thing that I still do to this day is I don't bring, I try to eliminate or minimize any poisons coming in, So that was the biggest thing. And I realized most of my diet was poison. So when I just started cleaned it up and tried to eat more natural, and that really helped me mentally. Actually, it got rid of depression and anxiety, which was normal to me. It was second nature to me, and it cleared it up. The diet and the mindset that I don't need some pill or something outside of myself to recover from that. So that helped that. And then also practicing a book I read was called The Power of Now and was fairly new at that time. And I read that book. Well, I would drive around in this company car I had. I was working a sales job, and I would just listen to Eckhart Tolle talk all day long. And he would tell me that if I just stayed in the now, my circumstance would change. So I was like, I don't know. It kind of make me mad a lot because I'd be stuck in traffic, people honking at me, but I kept doing it, and I did. I got very good at being in the now, and letting and that then it became. I was also at that time wanting to become a better at being social, wanting to be a better connector with women. And I would see women that I was attracted to all over the place. And I had just gotten out of a relationship, but I just didn't know how to start that conversation. And I didn't want to meet them in bars. I wanted to meet those interesting, beautiful women I was seeing everywhere all day. So that there was that, and then at the same time, I also wanted to be, as an actor still at that time, I wanted to figure out how to capitalize and not feel so insecure when I was around more successful people than me, or how I felt that they were, and I would kind of shut down around them. So I really went on this path of through being social and pushing myself past my fears and limiting beliefs around being social, around my identity, and kept pushing myself past until I found a really deep confidence day in and day out by transcending the resistance points of fear or feeling like I'm not enough, and kept pushing myself past it until I could stand in front of anyone, no matter how beautiful or successful they were, and be me, like I was with a best friend. And that was my goal, and that's how it started for me personally. And then along the way, a friend of mine said, "Look, you're broke, and you're like, because I had quit that job at one point." And he said, and I was like, "Well, I'm going to be an actor. That's what I'm working on for a long time. That's what I do." But he said I should teach people what I was doing because I had broken through. And I said, "Okay, I'll try it, but I'll try it my way. I don't want to do it in any negative way. I don't want to be sleazy. I don't want to do that." So I created this thing called the awakened lifestyle, which is this conscientious, aspirational idea that you would self-actualize and become a master of connection, connecting with yourself, connecting to the world around you, being super present, and connecting to the people in it. And that's the mission I have to this day. And I've gotten better, at reaching whatever the awakened lifestyle is. I feel like I'm getting better at helping other people reach that, myself reach it. And but in there, I put out back in the day, I didn't know how to get a client or anything like that. I put out an ad on Craigslist, and believe it or not, and people were using it. And I didn't know who was going to get back. I had no idea. And I just put something like, learn to connect to yourself and meet and connect with beautiful women anywhere and everywhere. I put that on as an ad, and I didn't even call myself John. I just said,
Well, that'll attract some eyeballs.
Yeah, but it was an ad, and it was in the zeitgeist, and I guess I framed it in a way that this will be a healthy endeavor, will go be social, and it was in the zeitgeist, and regular guys. I was surprised, cool, interesting people that were successful, doctors, a guy who had a successful show on MTV, things like that. They would come to me, and I would teach them. I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I would teach them how to meditate. I would take them for a walk and wave at people and things like that. And over time, and they liked it. And they gave me money. And then I realized, okay, I'm going to make a program. And over time, I got better at making a program and realizing what I'm doing. And luckily, I never had to work another job again. And then at one point, it really took off. So that's kind of my backstory.
There's a lot of meat on the bone.
There's a lot of meat on the bone.
Touched on a lot that's within our language here, from like diet, nutrition, to being present, to self-actualization.
Let's get out. We've had enough conversations on diet and nutrition. Let's move past that piece.
I'm just mentioning all of the pieces. Like, which one do you want?
Yeah, I love the idea that just this idea of broader, like, connecting to yourself and how it applies, I think, to all different parts of life, including dating and in relationships is one of those. But you said one thing that I want you to touch on a little bit more before we kind of dive into dating specifically, and that's transcending the resistance points of fear. I wrote that down. Like, can you just elaborate on that and what that means?
Yeah, you can break it down like, you've heard of that expression, like everything you want is on the other side of fear. And it's kind of like, let's just put it down in a kind of like a Zen in the art of meeting and connecting with women kind of idea. Like, there's a woman that you're attracted to. A man sees a beautiful woman, he's attracted, he just wants to say hi like a human. And right away, a wall of fear, negative thoughts telling him that he's not enough, now's not the right time, in fact, forget her anyway. Whatever it is, it will come up. And we could call it fear or resistance. And I kind of like to remove at one point the word fear and just say, hey, it's resistance. It's just, there's just a wall of resistance, and all you have to do is transcend it. So, and then it can come up at that moment. It can come up when you're in a conversation and you don't really want to say what you're thinking. It could come up in a relationship when you don't want to say what you're thinking. It can come up a million times over. And when it comes up, it's a moment to learn from, and at the same time go past it. So, and the goal isn't necessarily what the other person does or doesn't do. The goal is to become more me. When you transcend that resistance every time, do it 10 times a day, that's 10 times a day you become closer to being who you really are. You step into your real power, and every time you come up to that resistance line and you stay behind it instead of walk over it, you become smaller, a smaller version of yourself. The guy, you stay in that little circle of comfort that even if it's sad, even if it's angst-ridden, even if it's depressing, it's safe, instead of stepping through it. And when you let go of the need for an outcome, then it can become quite fun. It can become exhilarating even. And then that's when you begin to step into, hey, I like being me, no matter who I'm talking to, whatever flaws I feel I have, I like being me. And then you get good at, that's what comes from practicing transcending resistance.
How do you coach people through that? Because I imagine that's met with a fair amount of resistance in itself of, well, that sounds great on paper, but John, how do I actually do it?
Yeah, well, let's take it, I've coached both men and women, and it kind of manifests differently. It's the same idea, same principle. But let's just take a man who wants to get better literally at being social, who wants to feel confident about himself and wants to like being himself. And he wants to go and improve his dating life. He wants to get a girlfriend. He wants to actually experience dating. There's different. Some guy could be brand new to the dating world, and some other guy could be out of a divorce. It's all in between. But that feeling is all across all socioeconomic classes. I've had, just to put it in perspective, I've had guys who are Navy SEALs, been to wars, fearless. But when it comes to talking to a 100-pound girl that he's attracted to, he's frightened to death. Can't do it. Right? Locks up, breaks down. I've had guys who are CEOs of major companies, or doctors, lawyers, or college student, whatever it is. When it comes to that one place, it's the same problem. So how do I help take them past there? I tell them to tune into their instinct. And I give them a mantra. My instincts are good. My instincts. Like, instead of being stuck in your head, overanalyzing every thought you have, believing that your thoughts are your master, it's actually getting back into this feeling that my instincts are good, even if they were beaten down, even if I've been withholding them, that I want to listen to these instincts to love, to appreciate, to share, to connect, to tell a beautiful person they're beautiful, to step past that point of fear. I want to listen to that and in a healthy way react to it. And a very simple exercise I teach guys, and it all starts here and it ends here. This exercise is so simple, yet it could be, I would use it to meet my girlfriend, for example. And all it is I have an instinct. And if you were to take it more base instinct and it was a fight and someone threw a punch, your instinct would be to block. That's an instinct, so you respond. Instinct, you don't have to be a master MMA fighter, you just block. When you see an attractive woman, you wave. So you just add your hand, you just wave. And you don't, without the need for anything, but with definitely, just hello, and you add a hello, and you wave, and you want her to see you. You don't like do a flipper arm. It's a hello. You're responding to your instinct, and you're saying hi to a beautiful person. And in that moment, your ego is in play. If you've been practicing the desperate need for people to like you, the desperate need for me to get a date tonight, or I'm not anybody, then that's going to come up. Oh, then it's going to feel like, she looked down, she didn't smile, she gave me bad vibe. It's going to make someone feel, it's going to tap into that. So the practice is wave at them, and don't worry about what they do. But as you get good at it, a lot of people are nice and they just smile. That doesn't mean they want to go out with you, but they'll light up. And then and when you get good at it and you release the need to be liked and for the outcome, then that starts to land. But just as an exercise unto itself, I tell guys to warm up every day and do that 5 times a day.
I see where you're going there. I'm thinking about how it could, like the repetition could help improve the ability to become detached from the response and just become more comfortable with the simple act of saying hello or waving. It's interesting because I find it difficult in this day and age to meet other people, and especially in a world where, MD included, but, where I don't drink as much anymore. I don't really go out to the bars. It's like, where do you want to meet people? And something I like to do, I go to the gym every day. and you see an attractive person at the gym, and it's like, oh, that's a perfect place for me, ideally, to meet somebody. Like, it checks off a huge box. The person is fit. They value fitness to at least to some extent. They're in the gym the same time I am.
Okay.
And can you hear us, John?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah.
Okay. And I've had a handful of experiences going up to people at the gym, and I've realized actually that the more successful ones are the ones whereby I've been actually more authentic, and I've literally gone up to them and said, hey, my gut is telling me to do this. Normally I wouldn't, but would you like to grab coffee? I've gotten a yes from doing that.
Right, yeah.
And I've also got people, I've had someone where I thought I was coming up genuine. And the girl was very off-putting, like very hard to just kind of, I tried to introduce and she's kind of walking away, like trying to wipe off her equipment, like not really showing a lot of presence. And I'm trying to hold on, like continue the conversation. It's like, yeah, I'll give you my Instagram kind of thing. Gives me your Instagram. I message her the next day and she blocks me. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, right.
But
Okay.
what that showed me is that probably isn't the right person for me anyways, and I don't blame her for doing what she did because I don't know her past experiences. Maybe she has had a bad situation where she's said yes to a random guy and things got, but whatever it might be.
Right.
But I did just broader picture, the point being I've had more quote unquote success, if you will, in it when I've just been authentically myself, even though it's a little bit more, I wouldn't even say it's more difficult, but just less in my head and just being totally transparent with my intentions, which in that case were, hey, normally I wouldn't do this, but my gut's telling me to. Do you want to do this? And it's like, yeah, sure. And if she would have said no, then it's like, okay, well, at least I tried.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and dating in general can be frustrating, and that's the thing. That's why it has to be a practice and not an outcome, because no matter who you are, no matter how cool you are, no matter what great things you have in your life, you're not always going to line up with everybody. It's not always going to happen. And so you have to, and that's things like that happen in modern dating life. You just say hi and she blocks you. It's like, okay. Yeah. But that happens to you, to me, to everyone we both know. And it's part of the modern dating culture. And so it's like, of course that doesn't feel good when it happens, and it makes you doubt yourself for a moment, but it's like letting it go very quickly and not making a story about yourself or about dating or about women, and then that's what we have to do, and keep going again. And if the everyone has their own goals, because everyone's at a different place all the time, all of us, but let's say it's to get a great girlfriend, then it's just like, hey, maybe the next hello is the girl. Maybe the next time I do that at the gym, it's the girl. That's actually going to be my girlfriend. That's actually going to be an amazing relationship. She's just one hello away. Maybe, but and when I look at when I've had, right now I'm single, but when I've had really long-term relationships, and I only meet people in person, that when I look at that, I look at that just maybe 10 minutes before, someone who I wasn't even that drawn to gave me a scowl or gave me a bad vibe. But I did another one with someone who I was super drawn to, and I had a lot of resistance and fear around it, or whatever, not like that point of resistance was up. And for example, I once saw a beautiful girl sitting on a park bench. I looked at that girl. I said, "That's the prettiest girl I've ever seen." And then I thought, go over, and then the voices in my head said, not today, start tomorrow, right? And it was not today, start tomorrow. My back hurts. I just got off an airplane. Then I'll start talking to girls like that level. We always have these levels in our mind. So, but I did it anyway, and she turned out to be my living girlfriend for some years, and now to this day we're just best friends. So that one moment of transcendence, I stepped into a new world for her and for me. I created a new life story for both of us, and it was just moments before that I got a bad vibe from someone else. So it's interesting. You just have to keep going.
Yeah, so how do you reconcile that with like the girl's point of view, where there are certain environments where they're not susceptible or like not open to being approached? And so like, for example, on your on your Instagram page, I saw a lady. She was quite adamant, like, do not approach me in a parking lot, which I totally understand. By the way, like, I could see how myself like approaching somebody in a parking lot is kind of alarming. But like, the gym is another great example where there's like a whole population of, like, there's an army that believes adamantly that, like, I'm at the gym to work out, do not approach me, like, it's not the right place. But then what Kovi's saying is, like, well, if you do it authentically and detached from the outcome, and you just do it because it's your thought and you're getting this repetition in, and let's say, like, do you tell the guys, like, go for it anyway and, like, who cares? Or, like, do you take that into some level of consideration?
This is a great question. Now, I actually have a bunch of, I did a lot of interviews over the last few months. I got a lot coming out, and I asked that question over and over about the gym. And believe it or not, it's like, girls will have some stipulations around it, but many of the girls are like, do it. Some are like, no, but it's like, and then I notice some are just thinking, well, what should I say? Right? Rather, so I think it always comes back down to being situationally aware. You got to look at that girl that you're talking to, and you got to see how open she is. It's the same as anywhere, in a coffee shop, in Whole Foods, walking down the street. You check in, you see how open she is. So it doesn't have to be and I know many guys, personally, that are dating women they met at the gym, right? So you have to check in with the girl that you're going to approach, and also you just make it quick and to the point, and you let her, you kind of just tell her, like, use a time constraint so she knows you're not one of those guys who doesn't know when to leave, which is something like, hey, I'm over here doing my tri curls or whatever, doing my bicep curls, and I see you, and I got to get back to it, but I just got to tell you whatever I have to say, I have to say what I have to say. I just say, just that. And see how she responds. If she's open, then you keep going. Like, oh my God, yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, and then you say, anyway, look, my name's John, and you are, and then you might guess a thing or two about her and say, hey, look, I know we both have to get back to our workout, but I'd love to take you out for a drink sometime, or whatever, or for a smoothie. I don't drink either, or I'd love to take you for dinner sometime, or go for a walk, or whatever you guys come up with in that moment. So yeah, I think it's you test in. And I don't think at the end of the day, if you can't handle a guy texting in with you, we're not living in a bubble, We're just checking in. And if you're a socially aware guy, a situationally aware guy, I think it's the right thing to do.
And so, like, sounds so simple, but so few of us will be able to do it. And I know we talked about the fear, and and then another person on your content talked about, like, what they're really looking for in that moment is a level of confidence and a level of respect. And those just seem so baseline to me for us men. Let's just stay on the topic of men, for heterosexual men, for that matter. Like, have you noticed that in our society, are we, like, directionally moving away from that being a norm? Like, have you noticed a shift in the wrong direction, that it's becoming less and less normal for a guy to have a baseline level of confidence and also a level of respect, but we'll just focus on the confidence piece to be able to do what you said? Or do you think it's, like, maybe getting better over time?
Well, I think I will say that there is, as far as respect, there's different kinds of people, different types of people there are guys literally who catcall, right? Mm-hmm. There is that. I've seen it, and there's a park in New York called Washington Square Park. I've seen it. I couldn't believe it. I'm watching these guys, like, they don't have any intention of getting the girl. They don't even believe in themselves that they could. They're just yelling things out at her, probably making her uncomfortable, and she has to walk through it. But I'd say 98% of guys don't do that. And so then it comes down to, do they mean to be disrespectful? And I think so from the respect point of view is do they mean to be? I think there is a lot of guys who are not really socialized well, so they don't necessarily mean to be disrespectful. And ways that women would feel disrespected are, he gets too close to her and he won't leave. So there's the two things that would be more likely to happen and make it uncomfortable. He doesn't pick up the social cue. So generally, there's only a small group of people that would be out now trying to be disrespectful. And then there's guys who just don't know, just aren't being social enough. As far as general confidence, social confidence, there was obviously definitely a huge dip. There's always been, I don't know who made up this stat, but they say 98% of guys will not approach a woman. So I don't know if that's
I believe it.
that level is.
That's
Yeah, it's very
high.
high.
It's really
It's
high.
very
Yeah.
high. So now, obviously, the people that I meet are the guys who say, I can't do it, but I want to do it, you know? And let's say 10 guys called me this month, maybe 3 of them will actually do it. So that's the other 7 will just kick the tire and keep walking and maybe never do anything about it, you know? Just accept their fate. So it's like there's a small, so the point is yeah, the confidence is, there's a fear that am I doing, the main fear was even all the way back 15 years ago, am I being creepy? I feel like I'm being creepy. I want to be a good person, but I think this might be bad, right? Because there is guys who were being manipulative or not being clear with their intention and going roundabout ways to meet women. And then obviously after a Me Too movement and a lot of noise around that's you take basically a bunch of guys who are already worried and you knock them in basically down a hole so far they may never come out. But I would say people are coming out, and also the more social exchanges we have, the more you realize, honestly, when you're calibrated and you're situationally aware and you approach in a disarming way, I would say 95% of women will at least be open and smile. That doesn't mean you're going on a date, but if you're situationally aware, you're calibrated, and you don't have an agenda, people respond well. And so I think that's an actual fact that I can say from being a man on the street for all those years, doing it, working with people. So the confidence may be down, but I think the air is cleared around that negative energy, and that this message of, hey, just be authentic. And that's my main reason for doing all these interviews is I haven't had a woman yet, no matter, even if she's coming out of gender studies school, say a man can't approach a woman. I haven't heard that yet, not one. Now the gym, that's different. I heard a lot of things, but just saying hi, that I haven't heard yet.
And it's never that bad. I think that's the other thing is people overplay how poorly it can go in their heads before they actually do it. And
which is like fear in a nutshell.
yeah, and I've had some pretty tough to navigate and say embarrassing, but just feeling like you just want to crawl into a ball of situations where it doesn't go quote unquote as planned, or you're kind of stuttering. I remember I went up to one and I wasn't even trying to ask this. I don't even know why I'm telling all these stories, but whatever. The listeners are getting into my life. But I went up to
because a lot.
and I went up to one beautiful woman, not even to ask her out, but just to because I knew she had a following, to see if she wanted to come on the podcast or just talk to her. And it was at the gym though, and it was a smaller gym, and you could just tell every other person in there is taking notice of this lady. And I go up to her, and I remember, and she was very nice, and we had a normal conversation. But I remember going to give her my phone to show her my Instagram or vice versa, and my hands were shaking. My hand was literally shaking as I'm doing it. And I was so proud of myself after I did it, because I was able to go and put my head on the pillow that night and not have the regret of, which I knew I would because I had never seen her there before, and I probably would never again, and I never did after that actually, of what would have what could have happened.
She'd only canceled her membership.
And you know what? No, she still goes there. And you know what? Nothing transpired of it, but I built a little bit of confidence in myself, if nothing else. That hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I think that is so powerful.
It's unbelievable, and also because you gave yourself permission, just that you did it was good enough. Instead of obsessing with whatever happened afterwards, whether you dated her or not, doesn't matter. The fact that in that moment that you did it was good enough for you, and that's why you can continue to do it.
And so, John, you mentioned you're single now. So when women find out, how do they respond to just something that popped in my head of this idea of John is a dating coach? How does that go over with women? How are you meeting? Just talk a little bit about that. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I travel a lot, and I can tell you different places respond differently to it. And I think I'm lucky that I have a lot of besides having street cred, I have like the Fox and Friends and the New York Times and various things. So that adds a little something. So I'm lucky for that. But it adds a little like credibility about what I'm doing. But I would say it really is a polarizing identity, the dating coach, the male dating coach. It's a polarizing identity. And it's kind of like a Rorschach test. Someone can hear it, and it's like it could trigger negative thoughts. Or someone could think it's amazing. Wow, that's just amazing, And sometimes, to be honest, like when people say, "What do you do?" It's not usually the first thing I want to talk about because there's never a time that's not all we talk about. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't really feel like talking about it. I just did it all day. I don't feel like rapping about this again. So there's that, So it's definitely an interesting thing to be, and I have found the women that I'm most drawn to, the most attractive women, let's say. Really resonate with it. So maybe people who live outside of a normal life, they really resonate with that. And I'm just talking from a New York point of view. I found outside of New York, like if you go to Europe or all through South Latin America or even Miami, I have found that everyone's very positive on it. They don't have any negative energy around it. It's like, hey, you got a job, that's good enough for me. So, but I think generally people really look in these other parts of the world, really admire someone helping other people. And in New York, I think the more I do it, and as I've added into like the street interviews with talking to women and letting women just talk without me being some guy who's interjecting his opinion, because that's not what I'm doing. I'm just asking a question. I let them respond, and I share it. And I think that women really like that. They've really been, all women are enjoying that. So I'm getting a lot of women followers from that.
What does the negativity look like? You mentioned that you get some sort of negative reception towards that. What does that sound or look like?
I think it just sounds or looks like we're not dating. So, no, just at the bottom, so if I meet a girl that I'm interested in, say from a friend, I've never had all my friends think it's great, but if I've met a girl, she might be afraid, this guy's just talking to women all the time, so she might be afraid that, how can I date someone like that? How could I be in a relationship with someone who's out helping other people be social, who's always putting himself in social situations with attractive women? So that would really be what I think is the main thing. Not that there's something bad about it, but could she handle that, feeling of that? So I think that's generally the negativity that I've gotten, and for some women that's just too much. And then I could say, hey, that's a qualifier, And then I can honestly say, when I look at it, the women I'm most drawn to, the women I'm most attracted to, they're always all about it. They want to be a part of it, So it's kind of just a qualifier for me at this point. Yeah.
So you made a post or something around teaching men how to become good observers. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a great observation. It's not no pun intended there actually, but what does it mean to be a good observer?
Okay, yeah, and this is really, and that goes back to when I say connecting to yourself, observe yourself, be in your body, not just stuck up here. Like a lot of our modern jobs are just up here, and the thinking and the constant consuming of thoughts, So it's like observe your body, be in your body. So it starts there. That's connecting to yourself. And then being an observer of the outside world. Notice as you're walking down the street, and this makes you very present, through the senses is the now. That's how we find our way in the now. So we use our eyes, we use our ears, we use our touch, we use our intuition or our taste if you're eating, or your smell. You use that. You actually listen to that. Listen to what's happening. See what's happening around you. Notice the trees. Notice the details in the leaves. Notice the architecture as you're walking down the street, and really make it a point to do it as the street you walk down every day, and you'll all of a sudden see things you never saw before. And that helps you be in the now, but it also helps you become a seer. And then you want to add being a sayer, meaning you see something, like, wow, that building's so beautiful. I love the arches in it and the way it has this kind of Greek Ionic feeling or something like that. And you say it. So then you start seeing and saying, and you're practicing that, and then you start taking that to the people around you, the strangers that you see. Like, you look for you observe, you look in their eyes, and you kind of guess what they're feeling. Do they look sad? Do they look focused? Do they look like they're having a good day? Do they look like whatever's going on with them? And then, of course, look at their clothes. Look at the sneakers they're wearing. Are they Vans? Are they Balenciaga? And notice, because that's information. And also, it's something to talk about. Notice the shirt. Notice the accoutrements, the necklaces, the earrings, the bracelets that they might have on. And that's something to say about. Notice how they walk. Do they walk with a pep in their step? Are they walking with their head down? Do they walk, it looks like they need to go to the chiropractor? Have a look. Notice and notice these things. And then at one point, as people who are trying to make a connection for dating, obviously, or friends, is you're going to say something nice that you see. So like, so it would be like, hello. It could be as simple as I really like that hat. It really pops. It could be, and it wants to be rooted in something real. It can't be fake. Otherwise, the listener will know that this is not right. Or it could be, for example, when I met my ex-girlfriend on a park bench, it was as simple as, hey, I saw you reading that book. It looks really interesting. I'm curious what it is. Or, hey, I saw you sitting on this park bench reading a book. You look like the picture of a perfect day in the sun. And then you see how she responds. And then it's like, yeah, she's like, oh my God, thanks. Yeah, you have the book, you have the leaves behind you, the sun is shining through them. Anyway, I've got to get out of here. Meaning, like, I'm not going to be here for 4 hours. Don't worry. My name is John. And then you see if she's open to you, and then you have a conversation or you don't. But just giving a compliment to give, rooted in an actual observation that's happening right now in this moment, is the best way to break the ice, because it's so now that how could she not be in it? And if you're really looking at her, you can see she might be someone you would be attracted to, but if she looks like she's wrapped up in a real world problem, or she's walking at the speed of light, it's not really gonna, she's not synced up for, being open to a connection. Thinks we're frozen, guys?
And so, I guess this is kind of related to this, but and it's interesting because it's I didn't I went through your page. I mean, you have done the, like, I wasn't expecting to meet someone so, like, how's the right word to say this, but like that has done so much. Clear, you've done a lot of like inner work, meditation, and it makes sense. And it, to me, that's kind of what you're coaching people on. Like, you're starting getting people to connect to themselves, which is not what you think of when you hear dating coach, but it is actually so paramount and important to be able to connect with yourself, because you can't go out and walk with any sort of confidence or show up how you want to show up in the world if you're showing up as disconnected and an artificial version of who you are. And you're going to attract, and then you're in turn going to attract someone that's just like that. And I like this idea of just going up to people, because I think it also weeds out people fairly quickly on at least in the glass half full scenario. Like, if you go up to someone and someone's snarky, I mean, that just to me tells, like, okay, good, fine, like, we move on. Like, that's not someone that I want to spend probably time with anyway, because I go up to everyone super happy and ready and, like, want to learn about these people. And if that's not reciprocated, like, that's okay, but probably not the right individual. But on that point, you also, like, you had a point of making people feel heard and understood, which I think is connected to being an observer. But just how can we make people feel more heard, more seen, and more understood?
Yeah, that's a great point. And what you're saying also, just to what you just talked about, is that's right. First of all, dating can get quite expensive. and you're just meeting someone online, and then you go out and you find out immediately you don't like the sound of their voice, you don't like their energy, they're not as attractive as you thought. When you see someone in real life and you go and talk to them, in one moment you can tell you like them. You can even, before, if she's walking and you talk to her, you can tell you like the way she walks. There's some information in that to you. You can tell you like the sound of her voice. You can tell that you like her outlook on life as she responds to you. So you learn you skip a lot of stuff just by saying hi to people in real life. The next thing is, how do you make someone feel heard, listened to, understood, and why is that so important? And I would say, in order to make a connection with a woman, you need to make her feel heard, listened to, and understood. So how do you do that? And this is really important because a lot of guys don't. They just are so in their head. They're just trying to prove something. They're just whatever. They're just not being there with her in the moment. So this same method of meeting her, of noticing things about her, it happens as it spills into the conversation when you first meet her, or on a date, or as you're dating. And when you stop making her feel heard, listened to, and understood, and seen, then you are usually when relationship begins to unravel. So a way to do that is, instead of asking 20 questions, let's just say on the initial meeting, let's go back to the park bench. I say, hey, look, I'm going to run, and I sit down next to her, and she's cool with that. And then instead of saying, here's 60 questions, let me make you feel like you want to jump off a bridge. I say this. Hey, I noticed something about you. I'm going to guess. Right? And again, I have to notice something about her. And I can look for things like if she has an accent, or if she has an energy about her, say that's super light and easy, or if she has a very business vibe, or or if she has a very athletic energy. And then I might say, hey, I noticed something about you. I noticed that you have an accent. I'm going to guess that you're from Paris. I noticed that you're super chill and laid back. I'm going to guess you do some kind of meditation. Or you might be talking to a woman who's very deep and reflectful and soulful. You see it in her eyes and her responses. And you say, I notice you're very deep, reflective, and soulful. I'm going to get, it really seems to me like you've done a lot of inner work. Is that true? So that's someone being seen, heard, and understood. Or as you're talking to her and you notice how easy it is to talk to her, and you say, hey, you know what? It's really easy to talk to you. I feel like I could talk to you like all day. Or you might notice that she's very expressive like I am. And you might notice that. And when she gets excited about a topic, and you might say that to her, hey, whenever you talk about ballet, you're just like your eyes light up, your whole body lights up. It's really cool. And then she's being seen, heard, and understood. And so that's a simple technique of actually seeing her and then telling her what you see and then getting her to open up more. So that's one way to make her feel that way. And it's so much better than just asking a bunch of questions or only talking about yourself.
Is there so in what you're saying is part of also being a good coach on the flip side, which is really, I think, just active listening at the end of the day. Well, and one way to do that and train and teach that is through kind of the method that you just described. But I think in this day and age, or not even this day and age, I think just people more generally are so uncomfortable with a quote unquote like awkward silence or not knowing what to say next. I still kind of get in my head at times, and I'm trying to think about what to say next. Even on the podcast, that's why I started bringing my iPad. So if I have something, I write it down real quick, so then I can bring my presence back if I have a thought that pops up. So I can bring my presence back to the person that's speaking to me and give them my full attention. And I think when we're able to, like you said, get out of our head, stop thinking about how we can relate to what this person is saying to an experience in my life and making it about me, but just giving them the space to share and give them the gift of showing them us who they are, it becomes a lot easier to do what you just said, because there's so much there in somebody if you're just willing to let them show you, and giving them the space to let them show you, not cutting them off. Not, oh, I remember that too when I went to this place, this. I digress.
Well, I think a big part of this quickly is just that a lot of what can make this interaction a lot scarier, and I'm just starting to think about like cold calling because I'm in sales. I'm a sales coach, and like the hardest conversations to have are the ones where you are attached to an outcome. So if you go into that interaction thinking like, I need to make this my girlfriend, or I need to get some sort of like outcome out of this, you start to lose presence in a sense of like, I want to think of like, how do I now make a response or say the next thing so that I can like get to my desired outcome. And so like, I think what you mentioned very early on, John, and it seems really key to this, is like you can kind of have that comfortable present conversation where I could just notice something about you, bring it up, because we're kind of in this like free flow state versus I'm trying to like point this into a certain direction or fit this into a certain molded outcome. Am I kind of on cue there?
Yeah, and I think it also relates to like sales. When I did do sales, I got some good training back in the day, and there was one thing called the listening, the counselor salesperson or something like that, and it really was just all about active listening, and and just listening, and then obviously if there's a match between the two, like actually what I'm bringing to you, to this person that I'm offering a product or service to, is something that that will make their business better, something that will make their whatever they're doing better. I'm here to improve. So that in that sense, it's the same. It's not. There's obviously some agenda in there, like that I want to make a sale, but at the same time, I want my customer to be heard, and I want my customer to feel great that their business is going to improve, or whatever I'm selling them is going to. In my case, it would be that their personal life's going, because I have to sell. At the end of the day, I'm a coach, but I also have to sell that service to my clients, or my products to my clients. And the idea is I'm selling them something that's going to make their life better. So, but back to what you said, and this is going to be, I think, pretty interesting. When it comes to the interpersonal stuff, and I say, go back and listen to your instinct. Well, it's my natural instinct. It's the men that I work with, or the women that I work with. It's their natural instinct to connect to another person for intimacy, romance, love, etc. And that's the instinct. The human instinct is going to bring us to kissing and sex and holding hands and getting into some kind of relationship. Our instincts will do that. So when I'm actually physically drawn to a woman, when we are drawn to her, like that's just nature taking its course. So I just look at it as, let nature guide me, let my instincts guide me. Now, to have an agenda, right, in this, the way that I'm using it, the agenda of the ego is the agenda that I've got to get something so that I validate myself. Mm-hmm. I've got to get her to smile, then I feel good. I've got to get her phone number, then I'm worth something. I've got to get laid, now I've done it. I've got to get this thing, so then it's just this endless drive to get that. Now, of course, any woman who's not hopped up on drugs or has any self-esteem can see that. They feel, that's generally what we call creepy. This guy had an agenda. He's trying to get something from me. He's trying to take something from me. The opposite of that is this: I'm just here to give, to share, and receive in the pleasures that two people might have together. From a small moment of a small energy exchange, like a simple hello and a smile, to a great conversation, to a hug, to a kiss, to love, to family. I'm just here to potentially have all those moments. I'm here to give, and I'm open to receive. And that's the mindset of that. And nature is that we will come together more and more intimate. So it's removing the agenda of the ego that needs to be validated from something external.
What if the agenda is like wholesome though? Like, what if you just see the girl on the park bench and you're like, I'm single, I could see this girl being my girlfriend, I'm gonna give this a go, but like, should you already back out of that because you already have this agenda in mind? Or like, I'm just kind of wondering, like, what if it's not a creepy agenda?
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, that is the objective. right? That I see a girl, I want to date her, I do want to kiss her, I do want to know her, I do want to, there's a potential. But think of it like this, and this is, it's very, like a lot of men think like this, and we've probably heard this. Hey, I'm going to go out tonight and get laid.
Right.
Come hell or high water. It doesn't matter what she says, what she doesn't say. Doesn't matter, she's whatever happens. But you would rarely ever hear a woman say that. I'm going to go out tonight and get laid. No matter what this guy says, does, or whatever, I'm going back to his place, right? So it's like, of course, yeah, you look at that woman, I want to date her, I want to know her, yes. So that's just like, you could say that's an agenda, sure. But it's more like, I'm meaning like you're not pushing that agenda on her. Like it has to happen no matter what she says. I'm just getting her number no matter what, right? Now, I might ask a guy as an exercise to overcome the fear of rejection to go out and ask 5 girls out today, no matter what, even if it's ridiculously absurd, just to do it, to get past that hurdle and to get free from that. But really what I'm just trying to say is, yeah, of course you want to date her. Of course that's true. But it's instead of pushing that on her, just be there moment by moment with her. And I would say it like this. Imagine if we were just playing a simple pop song. And all pop songs have a kind of a similar formula. They have a chorus, they have a verse, a chorus, a verse, that kind of thing, whatever. And you have to have an opening of a song, and then you have the main part of the song that moves you, that makes you feel, the part that gets you high, and then you have some other thing. And it's like the opening of the song is maybe a compliment in the boy meets girl song. A compliment, and then it's a transition into the two of us exchanging energy and information about each other, right? And the energy is actually more important than the information, and we're exchanging that. And then there's, as the initiator of this conversation, I'm going to tell her why I'm there. I'm going to be clear with my intention, and I'm going to tell her what I like about her if I want to ask her out again. And by the way, you may start a conversation. I'm sure this has happened to you, where you don't like her. You're like, oh, she was very attractive, but I don't like her energy. From over there, she was somebody, but when I got up close, she just seems to, something about her's turned me off. And because I have options, I'm just going to say, have a nice day and move on. I'm not actually going to ask her out. And just because I started doesn't mean I have to finish it. The reason most guys don't finish it is because they get stuck on that another resistance point and they walk away too soon. But when you stop getting stuck on those resistance points, you can just have conversations with people you want to have conversations with and see where it goes, and maybe it will lead to that. I would love it to lead to that outcome, but it's okay if it doesn't. I'm just going to be moment to moment with this person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that.
Can you hear me?
Yep. You cut out for a second. I'll cut it. But do you have anything else you want to ask? All right,
Yes.
John. We are going to wrap up here with, first of all, thank you for your wisdom, your story. I learned something today, and I did not expect to come and share in my dating life, but that's all right. That's why that's the arena.
You got a lot of repetitions. That's what we got out of this.
The first question.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, the first question for you. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given, or your favorite quote?
All right, let me think about that. Let me think.
I'm giving you the space.
Yeah. Best piece of advice I've ever been given. Yeah, I think this is really important. Is, paraphrasing the advice, is, you have to look at your whole life when you make decisions, and you have to say, hey, don't go do something you don't want to do just because it maybe makes you richer. Don't go do something you don't want to do because it may be in the future. Like, it's great to sacrifice for future gain, but when at one point you have to look and see, like, if I follow a path of actually enjoying the journey instead of like everything I do is for some future gain, which is a very male mindset. In the future, I'll be me. So the best advice I ever got, and a lot of that advice comes from Eckhart Tolle, really, is the journey is more important than the outcome. And that literally means, like, in the future, you won't be you. In the future, you'll be a guy who's neurotic and doubts himself all day and gets stuck at resistance points if that's what you practice on this journey. And if you're building a business and you're yelling at all the people around you to get shit done, then, like, maybe you'll get somewhere, but you'll have, burned up a lot of bad energy along the way. And the journey really worth doing that? So it's like really being in this now, being in this present, and you're doing your best to enjoy being you, enjoy the world you're living in, and to get to that desired outcome, whether it's the ultimate body, whether it's the best business, whether it's the best relationship, whatever it is. So I think that even though there's that, like, life's a journey, not an outcome, can sound hokey, it really is about that journey. And for example, if there was like, I know some guys who moved to Puerto Rico to save on taxes, but they did that in their years when they could be meeting a wife that they wanted to meet and have a family, and they gave up that because that's not there generally. So it's like for that tax savings. And for me, if I were to think about that, I wouldn't do that. So because I want to have that life. So I guess a great quote is, I'm going to quote myself because it's the only quote I can think of. So is if you say what you see in the moment that you see it. Say what you see in the moment that you see it. And that is your ability to break the ice with any woman or anyone, anytime, anywhere. Say what you see in the moment that you see it, and that is your ability to break the ice with anyone, anytime, anywhere.
I like that. I really do like that. That's good. I'm gonna write that down. The last question, just if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, John, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Benjamin Franklin's the dead one. I just always admired him since I was a kid. I read his autobiography, and he was a true genius. Obviously, he invented a lot of the Western world, a lot of things we use to this day, including the discovery of electricity. And he was just always. I aspire to be like him. He was always kept his mind focused on creating, on doing, with this idea that I do better, that I'm making the world a better place. So instead of wasting time flipping through things that don't matter, he'd be practicing drawing a perfect circle, for example. Even that he would be doing, something that's keeping his mind on good and creating. So that's someone I would love to. And he also sounded like a really fun guy. And so I guess I'll leave it at that.
I don't think we've gotten Benjamin Franklin before.
No, but
we've had we've had a diverse group of people answer that question.
Gotta be a pretty fun guy to invent electricity.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, John, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom as well as your story. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
All right, I appreciate being on. Thanks for having me, guys. Great to meet you.